Welcome to Crime Light, where we shine a light on real crimes, real stories, and the truths hidden in the dark.
The man on the phone sounded afraid. He said he was bleeding. He said someone was chasing him. And then, the line went dead. By the time anyone arrived, there was no one left to save. This is the disappearance, and later confirmed death, of Brandon Mason Lawson, a 26-year-old father of 4 from San Angelo, Texas. In the early morning hours of August 9, 2013, Brandon vanished along a remote stretch of highway after calling 911 for help. For years, the case became defined by one thing: a chilling emergency call that no one fully understood, and no one acted on in time. Brandon Lawson worked long hours in the oil fields. He was physically capable, familiar with rural terrain, and no stranger to difficult conditions. He was also a father, deeply involved in his children's lives, and described by family as protective, loyal, and stubborn, in a way that sometimes worked against him. Brandon had struggled with substance abuse in the past, but according to his family, he had been working toward stability. This detail would later become central to how the public interpreted what happened, often overshadowing the facts. On the night of August 8, 2013, Brandon and his girlfriend of 10 years, Lawson, had an argument. Not violent, not unusual. The kind of disagreement many couples have, but one that ended with Brandon leaving the house. Just before midnight, Brandon got into his truck and began driving south. He told family members he was heading toward his father's home in Crowley, Texas, 3 hours away. He never made it. Around 12:30 a.m., Brandon's truck ran out of gas on U.S. Highway 277 near the small town of Bronte, Texas. This was not a populated area. It was dark, rural, and surrounded by uneven terrain and open land. Brandon called his brother, Kyle Lawson, and explained that he was stranded and that 3 people were chasing him out of town. Kyle and his wife immediately got into their truck and began driving toward him with a gas can. As Kyle drove, the calls with Brandon became increasingly difficult to understand, so much so Kyle asked if he was hallucinating. He stayed in constant contact with Brandon, often calling but only getting a few sentences from him at time. Brandon's words were fragmented. His tone shifted. At one point, Brandon told Kyle that he was bleeding. Kyle couldn't see anyone when he reached the area. He couldn't see Brandon either. Then suddenly, Brandon called 911. The call lasted just over 12 minutes. Brandon told the dispatcher his truck had run out of gas. He said there were people chasing him. He sounded frightened, but his words were difficult to interpret. The dispatcher struggled to understand him. At no point was Brandon clearly located. The call eventually disconnected. Unfortunately, Kyle was never told the 911 call had happened. A passing truck driver later reported a vehicle blocking part of the roadway. A deputy and Kyle arrived around 1:10 a.m. and found Brandon's truck. It was unlocked. The keys were missing. Brandon's phone was gone. There were no visible signs of a struggle. At the time, Kyle was on the phone with Brandon, who told him, "I can see you, I'm right here." But neither the deputy nor Kyle could see him. At the time of Brandon's disappearance, he had an active warrant for his arrest, so Kyle believed that Brandon was just hiding from the deputy. After talking with the police, Kyle drove his truck up the road and waited for Brandon to show back up. 45 minutes passed, but Brandon never showed. Kyle then drove back to Brandon's car And to his surprise, he was not there either. Around 8 a.m., Brandon's truck was towed. Here is the actual 911 call that Brandon made that day.
Over. Right here going towards that one on both sides. Not sure if they're out of gas. There's one more here. You got to check the woods. 330. Okay, now run that down. Now when I talked to him, I still ran into him. Ah, you ran into him. Okay. Got the first guy. You need an ambulance? Yeah, no, I need the call. Okay. Is anybody hurt? Hello? 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 Yes, I'm in the middle of the field. We're just first.
Once authorities realized Brandon was missing, extensive searches were launched. Ground teams, aerial searches, infrared technology. Thousands of acres were covered. Nothing was found. No blood, no clothing, no body. The landscape itself became the primary suspect, but even that explanation didn't fully fit. As the case gained attention, public focus shifted heavily toward one explanation: drug-induced paranoia. It became the dominant narrative online. But there was a problem. Even if Brandon was disoriented, that does not explain why. He was never found during extensive searches. His remains weren't discovered for years. And why he was close enough to help, yet still disappeared completely. The truth is, no theory fully explains every piece of evidence. In 2022, nearly 9 years later, clothing consistent with Brandon's was found in the area. Further searching uncovered human remains. In 2023, DNA testing confirmed what his family had waited nearly a decade to hear. The remains were Brandon Lawson. The cause of death could not be determined due to decomposition. No evidence of foul play was confirmed, but no definitive answers were provided either. Brandon Lawson didn't vanish into thin air. He disappeared within reach of help, within miles of his brother, within minutes of a 911 call. This case lingers not because it's unsolved, but because it shows how easily a person can ask for help and still be lost. Thank you for watching Crimelight, where we shine a light on real cases and real stories. Drop a like if you enjoyed. If you're new here, subscribe and join the community of truth seekers. Another case drops soon.